Hello there, and welcome to Secrets of the Ancients. If you'd like to keep exploring with us, please do consider subscribing, liking and leaving a comment. It really helps us out, and you'll never miss a discovery. Amazing mummies and their secrets. Egyptian archaeologists recently made a groundbreaking discovery. The oldest and most complete mummy ever found in Egypt. Yep, they kept it under wraps. This 4,300-year-old mummy was uncovered in a cluster of tombs near the step pyramid of Djoser, which dates back to Egypt's Old Kingdom. The mummy was covered in layers of gold. The team also discovered other tombs, including one that belonged to an ancient Egyptian official, and another to a mysterious guard believed to have performed special rituals. One particularly interesting tomb was that of a scribe, and it had the largest statues ever found in the area. This vast burial site includes over a dozen pyramids and resting places. Egyptian archaeologists recently made a groundbreaking discovery. The oldest and most complete mummy ever found in Egypt. Yep, they kept it under wraps. This 4,300-year-old mummy was uncovered in a cluster of tombs near the step pyramid of Djoser, which dates back to Egypt's Old Kingdom. The mummy was covered in layers of gold. The team also discovered other tombs, including one that belonged to an ancient Egyptian official and another to a mysterious guard believed to have performed special rituals. One particularly interesting tomb was that of a scribe, and it had the largest statues ever found in the area. This vast burial site includes over a dozen pyramids and resting places. One of the most famous mummies in the world is that of Hatshepsut, who ruled Egypt for about 20 years and built impressive structures while opening new trade routes. But when archaeologist Howard Carter found her tomb in the Valley of the Kings, the coffin was empty. However, he did find two coffins in another tomb. One belonged to Hatshepsut's nurse, and the other to an unidentified woman. In 2006, a team of experts investigated whether that mysterious woman might be Hatshepsut. They found a molar in a wooden box with her name on it, and when they matched it with a gap in the mummy's mouth, it was a perfect fit. Rameses II was another legendary pharaoh, and well, it's his mummy that actually made history. He ruled Egypt for 60 years and lived over 90 years. Pretty amazing for that time, honestly. It's said he had more than 100 children. When he died, he was originally buried in the Valley of the Kings, but grave robbers forced officials to secretly relocate his body to protect it. Fast forward to the 19th century, Rameses II's mummy was rediscovered, though not in great shape. Archaeologists flew it to Paris for treatment, but there was a problem. It couldn't be transported without official documentation. So, Rameses was issued his own passport with his profession listed as king, and yes, it included a photo. Most mummies don't have great skin, but one woman known as Lady Di was found in 1971 in a lavish tomb, and honestly she looked shockingly good. Thanks to the tomb's moist, low-oxygen conditions, her body was incredibly well preserved. Soft skin, great hair, even flexibility. The museum that displays her also showcases the luxury items buried with her, like evening gowns and musical instruments. Researchers later found she had died of a heart attack at age 50, over 2,000 years ago. In 1991, the frozen mummy of Otzi the Iceman was discovered in the Alps. At first, authorities thought he was a recent hiker because, well, he was so well preserved. Turns out he lived during the Copper Age. Found at over 10,000 feet above sea level, Otzi has taught us a lot about ancient European life. He ate meat, had arthritis, clogged arteries and digestive issues. He probably used acupuncture and medicinal herbs to treat his problems. His tools were freshly sharpened, suggesting he was prepared for trouble or just working. Then there's King Tut. He died at 19, over 3,000 years ago, but his tomb shocked the world when it was opened in 1922. It was still intact. Unlike most royal tombs, his had extravagant treasures, including solid gold coffins. His mummy and tomb gave us a look into Egypt's past. DNA analysis revealed he had a rare bone disorder and possibly malaria, which may have caused his early death. One of the oldest naturally mummified bodies ever found is Ginger, who lived over 5,000 years ago. He was buried in hot, dry sand in Egypt before mummification was even invented. The sand dried his body and preserved it naturally. Scientists aren't sure if it was intentional, but he was buried with pottery, suggesting some knowledge of preservation. Ginger now rests in the British Museum. A Dutch art collector once bought a statue from Asia, only to find a mummy hidden inside. It was too fragile to move. Scientists scanned it and found it was stuffed with paper scrolls covered in writing. Experts believe the monk performed self-mummification, a grueling process involving special diets and teas to prevent decay. Only a few monks ever succeeded, and they were highly respected. One Egyptian queen who still puzzles historians is the stunning Nefertiti. Known for her long neck, high cheekbones and wide eyes, her name literally means the beautiful woman has come. Though not a pharaoh, she was incredibly influential and admired, yet made many enemies. She wasn't King Tut's biological mother, but his stepmother. Her tomb has never been found yet. But a local Egyptologist recently found two mummies in the Valley of the Kings that might be Nefertiti and her daughter. DNA and scans could soon give us the clearest image yet of the queen. Nefertiti ruled during Egypt's golden age but died during social unrest, and her tomb was lost. That was over 100 years ago, and now we might be close to another huge discovery, Cleopatra's tomb. Cleopatra was the last active ruler of Egypt, reigning from 51 to 30 BCE. Despite countless ancient records, no one has found her tomb. Archaeologist Dr. Kathleen Martinez has spent decades studying sites near Alexandria and believes Cleopatra is buried beneath the ancient city of Taposiris Magna. She and her team discovered a hidden underground tunnel near the temple there, about 0.8 miles long, carved from rock. Ongoing excavations revealed pottery, busts and coins bearing Cleopatra's face. Some believe Cleopatra is buried there with Roman general Mark Antony. They were lovers who opposed the Roman Senate, which labelled Antony a traitor. Earthquakes and floods have damaged the area for centuries, possibly submerging the tomb. Excavations may eventually go underwater, which will take time and money, but archaeologists are hopeful. Cleopatra remains one of Egypt's most iconic figures. She was brilliant, multilingual, politically savvy, and may have written scientific texts. Though Greek by ancestry, she embraced Egyptian culture and worked hard to revive Egypt's economy and global standing. Behind her glamorous image was a clever strategist. In one clever move, she snuck herself into Julius Caesar's palace rolled in a rug. He was so impressed that they became allies and lovers. Later she wooed Mark Antony by sailing in on a golden ship dressed as Aphrodite, knowing he admired Greek mythology. They married, had 3 children and ruled Egypt together, until their scandal rocked Rome. Octavian, Caesar's heir, used propaganda to smear Cleopatra as a seductive manipulator and declared war. Their naval forces clashed in 33 BCE. Octavian won. Cleopatra and Antony fled to Egypt and hid in her palace. According to legends, Cleopatra took her own life using a poisoned needle or a venomous snake. Some say she carried a vial of poison hidden in her hairbrush. No one knows for sure, but if her tomb is found, we may finally learn the truth. After her death, Octavian looted her palaces and became Rome's first emperor. Had Cleopatra and Antony won that battle, world history could have changed dramatically. Here's a fun fact. More time passed between Cleopatra's reign and the moon landing than between her reign and the construction of the Great Pyramid. Cleopatra was born 2,038 years before the moon landing in 1969, but only 2,000 years after the pyramid was built in 2560 BCE. When you think mummy, you might imagine something spooky. But you know, mummies have actually taught us so much about ancient civilizations, their beliefs and their customs. The ancient Egyptians believed in life after death, but only if the body was preserved. That's why they embalmed bodies and filled tombs with belongings, kind of like giving the dead their own fully furnished apartment for the afterlife. They followed rituals using materials like honey, resin and incense to preserve the dead. No mummy is more famous than King Tut. Most tombs were looted, but his stayed hidden until 1922. Inside were 3 coffins, one made of pure gold. His tomb and body told us how people lived, what they wore, and even what illnesses they had. Rameses II, who ruled for 68 years, was known for wars and massive building projects. He was about 6 feet tall and lived to around 90. His spine may have had a condition, and after grave robbers disturbed his tomb, he ended up in a plain coffin in a secret mummy cache rediscovered in 1881. Luckily, his burial wrappings were labelled, helping archaeologists identify him. Mummification took 70 days. Bodies were dried with a salt called natron, coated in resins, wrapped in linen, and placed in artistically decorated tombs. King Tut's tomb walls show his journey to the afterlife, with magical spells from a special book meant to help the soul along the way. They even placed food in the tomb to help the dead in the next life. What they found in King Tut's tomb will blow your mind. When archaeologists explored the tomb of King Tutankhamun, they found 36 jars of ancient drinks and baskets of fruit, left behind to help him on his journey to the afterlife. The ancient Egyptians believed that getting to the afterlife was a long trip, so they stocked the tomb with supplies like food and water to support their loved ones along the way. Pharaohs were usually buried with all kinds of luxurious clothes and beautiful jewellery to make sure their trip was as stylish as possible. These included different types of linen garments like jackets, scarves, gloves, headpieces, and lots of gold jewellery decorated with gemstones, bracelets, pins, amulets, necklaces, rings, and even little jewelled insect charms believed to offer protection. Some tombs even had fans made of ivory and ostrich feathers to help keep them cool in the afterlife. Some rulers went even further. They were buried with full-sized boats and even chariots. For example, Pharaoh Khufu built the Great Pyramid at Giza as his tomb, and King Tut had a massive boat buried with him too, complete with oars, but no sign of water travel. He also had 3 chariots and several walking sticks made from precious materials, suggesting he preferred to travel by land. Among the most interesting items found near ancient mummies were bottles of oils and perfumes. After all, if pharaohs were going to look sharp, they probably wanted to smell nice too. Some tombs also contained ancient board games, many made from expensive materials like gold or ivory. One popular game was called Senet, which was kind of like early chess and very popular in ancient Egypt. While the Egyptians might have the most famous mummies, they weren't the first to invent mummification. That title actually goes to an ancient South American civilization called the Chinchorro. From what we know today, these people were the first to mummify their dead, about 2,000 years before the Egyptians started doing it. Mummies have taught us a lot about ancient rulers, but until recently we had no idea what they really looked like when they were alive. That started to change when archaeologists discovered a set of rare mummy portraits. These were incredibly detailed paintings made while the person was still alive, and they were usually painted on wood, unlike the classic canvas paintings we're used to today. These portraits are super realistic and beautiful, and they've even helped researchers diagnose diseases by comparing the images to the actual mummies. Some portraits even include pictures of the jewellery that was later found on the bodies. One recent discovery of such portraits in Central Egypt is especially important. It's the first time in over 100 years that these kinds of paintings have been found. Interestingly, mummification can also happen naturally. It doesn't always require human effort. Sometimes environmental conditions do the job. Extremely cold or hot climates, places with little oxygen, or areas exposed to certain chemicals can preserve a body naturally by preventing bacteria from growing. One famous example is Otzi the Iceman, who lived about 5,000 years ago in Europe. When his body was found in the Alps in 1991, authorities thought he was a modern-day mountaineer because he was so well preserved. But after removing him from the glacier, they realized he was from the Copper Age. Another shocking discovery happened in Egypt a few years ago. Archaeologists found 16 human hands buried neatly in 4 strange pits. At first, they didn't even look like human hands. They were unusually large. And weirdly, they were all right hands. No left hands were found anywhere. Turns out this may be evidence of a dark, ancient ritual. Egyptian art and legends describe a ceremony where warriors would present the right hands of their enemies as proof of victory and receive gold in return. Since Egyptians believed in the afterlife, cutting off someone's hand meant taking away their power forever. Finally, I'd like to thank you all for listening. And do consider following Secrets